We've all had the dream, or a version of it, start a company, build that company, and watch it become a national success. But the reality is, for many who actually live that dream, it doesn't often end there. You see, that particular dream represents the true story of today's guest who, along with his brothers, quickly found out that starting a company is easy. Keeping it going, that's the hard part. Let's have ourselves a pocket-sized pep talk because we're going to take an inside look at what it really takes to launch a top-selling brand and sustain it, and what you can learn both on the way up and on the way down.
A Pocket Sized Pep Talk, the podcast that can help energize your business and your life with a quick, inspiring message. Now, here's your host, Rob Jollis.
Today's guest, Gregory Vetter, is an innovator and disruptor in the clean food movement. His first venture, Tessame's All Natural, broke the rules of the sleepy salad dressing category by using real ingredients and shunning gums and flavor substitutes. His accolades include Inc. Magazine's Entrepreneur of the Year and EY's Entrepreneur of the Year finalist. His book that is launching right now is called Undressed: The Unfiltered Story of My Failed American Dream and How It Led to a Success. Happy to have you with us and welcome to the show, Greg.
Happy to be here.
Good. The Undressed, when you see a cover of this guy, the cover of his book, you'll get a little bit more on this undressed part, but suffice to say, that should be an enticer for some of you. He's pretty much undressed. So anyway, happy to have you here. With you, I want to start with the tagline on the book cover: "My Failed American Dream and How It Led to Success." How did failure lead you to success? Let's get that out of the way right off the bat.
Yeah, well, I think the first piece was just a complete commitment to trying to be successful. And I think everybody chooses their own reasons for being successful. I think I was running away from my biggest fear, which was the fear of failure, or more so the fear of shame that comes from failure. And so when you're running from something, it kind of changes the way you attack problems and how hard you're willing to go. You're literally willing to take it all the way to the end, which I did. And then in failing, there's a wonderful quote by Joseph Campbell: "The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek." I entered that cave of failure, and what happened was I realized actually how far I could be pushed. I realized actually what I was made of. I realized, or I had clarity in what made all of that work. And then also there was clarity on why it failed. And so in learning all of those lessons, I was able to kind of look at the world with clear eyes. And then we attacked all these new businesses with the clear eyes, with a playbook we thought could achieve success for the new ventures, which it has. And I was able to do it free. There was nothing holding me back. All of my greatest fears were already exposed. So it was almost like a rebirth.
Excellent. Did you have other failures that kind of began to mold this fear of failure kind of thing that you were going through?
I think it was really just, I was a very competitive athlete. And I didn't start off very talented. I had to work my way into success. Some people are born with kind of a genetic gift. That was not me. I just had a desire to play. So I think one of the big things for me was just, I needed to prove myself always. I was never the guy that they go, "Oh yeah, he's it. He gets to start. He's our number one pick." I was kind of a bubble player in the beginning. Yeah. And so when you're a bubble player, you really got to take attention to detail and you got to prove yourself. And I think that just became a habit. I had a deep chip on my shoulder, and then that just carried through into the business world.
Right. What sport are we talking about now?
In high school, I played a bunch of different sports, but in college, I played lacrosse, and then I played lacrosse professionally for a couple of years. So I was able to work my way into some version of success there.
Well, I think you're underselling yourself. If you played at a college and professional level, the kindest thing we could say about you is you were a grinder. You basically just fought for it.
I am a grinder. I have been told that.
You kind of look like a grinder. I know people can't see him right now, but like I said, go to this book cover. You'll get plenty to see about this guy. It's interesting, Greg. One time I was on a flight, and I was on a red eye, and I don't know whether I was asleep or awake, one of those moments, and I had this epiphany I woke up and I went, I now know the definition of wisdom, and I wrote it down, and I still it was one of those few things where I woke up in the morning and went, I still like that. I think wisdom consists of success, failure, and a conscious knowledge of the lessons learned from each. So you need all three. If all you've had is success, if those sports came easy to you, good, you're talented, congratulations. You're not going to make much of a coach. I don't know what you can help other people with, but boy, lucky you. If all you've had is failure, we know where that leads us. But when you have a bit of each and you can figure out what you did for each one, I think you get wiser.
I would say so. It gives you a much better perspective on the world. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. Well, and it help you write a book too, because
right.
Again, think about it. What do you write? What book do you write when it all came easy to you? I mean, there's our title. It all came easy.
I was born. It was magnificent. My trust fund kicked in. The end.
Yeah. Everyone loved me. Yeah. Let's get to this fear of failure thing, because I don't know whether we share this, but I'll just cut into it for a second. I'm also kind of squirrely when it comes to competition. I'm a very competitive guy, but I made up a term called the McEnroe syndrome. And the McEnroe syndrome to me is, and it's not always, but it's, for instance, why I don't gamble. I hate losing more than I enjoy winning.
I also don't gamble, so maybe that's why I also hate losing.
Yeah, I mean, think about it.
Maybe that's it.
Yeah, I think we've solved it. At least that part of it. Look, you and I would play blackjack. I'm thrilled you want to, if I've got some good hands. But boy, when I lose, I'm miserable. I just threw money on a fly. I wish I'd burned it in a corner. What a waste of time.
Yes.
And that was kind of when you watched McEnroe. He enjoyed winning, but he despised losing. And I'm not so sure he should have been playing as much tennis. Give him. So there we are. We've got ourselves labeled.
I like it.
Good. The other part, and I wouldn't mind going into just for a second more. I just want to poke it one more time. And it's that part about people don't know when to quit. I just think that's very underappreciated, the point you made. So here's why I want to hit it one more time. It's almost like in for stocks, I have a person that handles my finances. I can buy, but I never know when to sell.
Yep.
And I think it's similar in terms of we kind of get stuck that way.
For sure. I mean, and I had to unpack that for a little while. I mean, you kind of take pride in never being a quitter. I'm a parent. I have 4 kids. We don't quit things.
Right.
And it's interesting because as a stubborn non-quitter with a chip on your shoulder, you will go until the end.
Right.
And so finding this interesting awareness or wisdom around losing the battle to win the war, or kind of strategically retreating to regroup and rethink so that you can keep an eye on what the main goal is and then attack again. That took a while to be able to put words to, because initially when you fail, or when I fail, it's, man, I mean, I'm going to go until I'm completely knocked out and the ref just goes, all right, it's over.
Right.
Understanding when that energy is no longer receiving a good return on your own time. That's really the art. And I think that is what I learned after all of that ended. As we look at these new ventures, I really kind of take a more ruthless, unemotional approach to the whole situation, because I know how stubborn I am. I know how much I hate losing. I know I take pride in not quitting. And so being able to just look at these things with clear eyeballs, that's a whole new chapter of my life that I'm learning about by the day.
Yeah. And it's got to be a tough one for a competitor, because I'm holding something up, which is a terrible thing to do on a podcast, but at least Greg will enjoy it. But that's what I keep on my desk, and it says "never, never quit." It's in stone. I mean, I only have so much real estate in front of me. It's the only stone I have.
Yeah.
It's sort of how a competitor is bred,
Yes.
and it's dangerous in a sense, because we don't know where that line is. And and Greg, from me back to you, one of my fears was always the moment I open that door and allow quitting to be okay, it's going to be that I'm nervous. It'll be that much easier to quit the next time.
Right. You're a quitter for life.
Yeah.
And I think unpacking that and doing a lot of research into that and understanding the difference between a tactical retreat, losing the battle to win the war. I did a lot of research on that because it is a massive fear, which is, am I a quitter now? Did I actually even quit? Or even on the flip side, did I take it too far? Did I push the journey past where it was supposed to go because I wouldn't quit?
Right.
And I don't know if you ever have the right answer, but I do know that thinking about it and trying to learn from your mistakes is all you really can do.
Right. And it also sounds like your book is, more than just sort of a motivational. You can do it. You've got some process behaviors behind this, because I'm thinking there's a lot of people that might be listening right now going, okay, makes sense. Is there how do I know where that line is? In other words, Is this the one I don't quit, but the other one I should? Do you have anything that's repeatable and predictable or process oriented that we could measure that with?
I don't know specific about quitting. I do have at the end of every chapter, there's a field guide of the lessons that I learned from that moment. And so, yes, it's a wild, wild story of building the #1 organic salad dressing brand in the country and having it be valued at over $300 million and then basically handing it over to somebody for $4.5 million. But what it really is, it's a field guide for people. It is a pressure test. It is the questions that need to be asked before you embark on that journey. And so everybody is going to have a different kind of moment to analyze. And I really think from a quitting perspective, you should probably lean towards never quitting. but just, I would say tactically and strategically, I think everything has to be analyzed on a case-by-case basis to just say, are you just beating your head up against a wall for no reason and your time would be better spent doing something else?
Yeah.
Those are questions that need to be asked every day.
Yeah. All right. I promise I'll leave that. I've got half of one more question on that, but I want to remind people what the name of this book is, because I think this is really important. Undressed, the unfiltered story of my failed American dream and how it led to success. I'm throwing that out there. We'll get to it at the end. We'll remind people again, but I'm reminding you now because this really, to me, is a critical lesson for people to learn, and it is not instinctive. You're going to learn it one way or the other. Going to get your head handed to you a few times. So I really appreciate this topic, particularly from you've never met me before. I'm a swell guy, but I don't like when a person walks across the street faster than me.
Yeah,
I'm one of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I've had my head handed to me a few times because I just was stuck in that abyss of, well, I'm going to get crushed, but at least I didn't quit.
Right.
And my ego took over, things like that. So my question is this, and I promise I'll let it go. but are there some questions that I can ask myself? I understand it's going to be a case by case basis, but is there some sort of checklist, something that I can do that at least ask myself questions I'm not asking myself instinctively?
I think the key to all of it is keeping your focus on whatever your main goal is. That will really help you focus on whether or not you basically need to quote unquote quit, right? Because for me, the main goal was trying to get the best outcome for all of our shareholders. Mm-hmm. And so when people wouldn't negotiate and people were suing us from every angle, and we're spending millions of dollars a year on lawyers, and everything is completely distracted, and we're not focusing on what we're supposed to be doing, you get to a point where you're like, the only way I can still get this goal accomplished is by restructuring this business. And I'm in restructuring. I'm then going to live into this goal that I have for everybody. And so for me, what that meant was it had to end. I had to move on. And in moving on, I still have an opportunity to create value where I can still add value back to those shareholders. It could not happen in that entity any longer because the entire culture was just completely fractured.
Right.
And so if you're not in alignment, and this goes for any team in the world, it could be a professional sports team, it could be an organization, your culture must be focused and in lockstep towards your goal. And when you start getting distracted by nonsense and you stop focusing on what your main objective is, that is when your energy is no longer moving forward to the goal that you're working towards. You're now just basically treading water, trying to keep everything alive. And you can only tread water for so long, as we all know. So coming back to the question, what is the main goal I'm working towards? What am I focused on? And is the path I'm on right now going to allow me to accomplish that goal? That will allow you to then take a step back and go, all right, I can't swim across this river with a 50-pound weight vest. So I need to turn back and basically make a raft. I think that will help people process that question that I know all competitors have, right? We'll fight to the last whistle.
And we'll go proud to do it.
Right.
It's an honor.
It's like, well, yeah, he played to the last whistle. You hear that all the time. And it's true in that game where your whole journey is an hour. But when you don't know how long the journey is, you have to strategically improvise.
Yeah.
And so you always need to keep just, okay, all right, I can't swim across that with a weight vest, or I gotta make a boat. How do I make a boat? I need to do that because the goal is still, okay, I got to get across there, or I got to get to this finish line. How can I do that? So that's, I would say, the main thing that anybody can think about when they're thinking through this process of how do I accomplish this goal? What do I need to do to accomplish it? That's how I would frame it.
You got it. Nailed it. And thank you. You said something that was really interesting to me, and you used the word game. I might have even introduced it, and I thought immediately, because I've learned this about professional negotiation, things like this, it's not a game. The moment we make a game out of it, that's Monopoly. I mean, my wife played Monopoly with me one time. I played with two other brothers. We destroyed each other. And then play a little bit longer with nothing. Here, here's $20. Keep going around the board or I'll beat you senseless. That was Monopoly. The moment I played with my wife, who coincidentally grew up with three other sisters, they like to read the cards. It was social. Well, I won the game, but never played Monopoly again. We can't approach business like it's a game.
Right.
It's not. But think about it, Greg, how often we sort of unconsciously, incompetently it's more of our ego and that's involved. Once you turned your attention to those shareholders, to the other people, I think that was the clue that I needed, at least, to go, there it is. Remember, Rob, you're not playing a game. You and me, I think if we ever played anything, we would leave it on the field. We'd be the guy that'd be dragging us off and proud of it. Like we said,
Yeah,
well, as soon as we come to, I'll be proud of it.
100%.
But I don't approach business like a game. And there it
No.
is. All right, let's keep going. When you do say, okay, this is a rational decision, we sort of touched on when I said, will this infect me in some way? Is this going to make it easier to quit? How do you deal with the self-doubt part of this part when you say, I'm not going to win this. I don't even want to use the word win right now because I feel like I'm sliding back to a game, but I'm not going to accomplish this goal. How do you keep self-doubt from creeping in?
I think you just have to take action. There was a lot of fear that this failure was going to be the end of me in business and me working with my brothers. And, was I a one-hit wonder? Was this all luck? Did I just screw the greatest opportunity up anyone's ever had? What was my impact for this whole failure? And I think what I found in my reflections was I had manufactured myself a lot of the buzz and the magic that was in this brand. And so what came from the reflection was, let me immediately test whether or not everything was luck or if I can replicate this, right? Because once you have failure, you're not scared of it again. All your fears have been realized. It's like if you're scared of the dark and then you go outside and you're stuck in the dark and then you realize, okay, it's not that scary anymore. You go back into the dark and you don't have any issues. So I wanted to test whether or not I was a one-hit wonder or if my skills and if my abilities could translate into other industries, into other brands, etc. And so what I immediately did was take action. And what I saw was that the action was successful and it actually allowed me to get a deeper understanding of what worked and what did not work and why, which then allowed me to have more profound conclusions as to what the purpose of that journey was as a whole. And so then that led to basically writing a book, which I did not plan on doing, but action and being okay with failure again was what allowed me to go, all right, man, sometimes shit happens. Right. And that is what happened there. Right. And it's not going to happen again. Or if it does, you're going to be much more aware of why. You're going to be able to see it faster and you're going to be able to prevent it from being as grand of a dumpster fire as it was the first time.
Yeah. It's funny when you said, failure. I almost have trouble getting those words out of my mouth. It's like not doing as well as I wanted. Yeah. That's a tough word for me to pronounce. It's like I don't want it to leave my lips. And I was watching when you said that, and this is a guy who's, people don't realize that when you write a book, you're on your own journey and you really work things. You may have an outline, but you're working a lot of stuff out while you're writing. And something tells me that you almost had your own therapy session writing this book and just dealing with that word, that concept.
100%. I mean, saying that you quit, that's something I still don't feel good doing. Yeah. Saying that it was a failure, still tough.
Right.
But I think the most interesting part of it and what I found is that failure, like beauty, is in the eye of the beholder. And so if you can take these unbelievable learning lessons and you can do something with them, then at least there's beauty in the suffering.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So leaders as a whole, we should be leaving things better than when we found them. And we should be leading by example. And so for me, this is my attempt to leave that journey better than when I found it, so that future entrepreneurs or future dreamers or anybody going after anything can read this book and go, okay, well, definitely avoid that. And on the flip side, wow, that really worked. That was super creative. I'm going to do that for my thing. And they can accelerate their journey faster than it took me to do it. So it's like, I'd love for people to avoid the same mistakes I made. That would be smart. And then also, I would love for people to take all of the things that really worked and implement them in their own businesses and go, yeah, man, like that was genius what you did.
Right.
So that's really my kind of overarching therapy session for writing the book. Yes, initially it was me getting everything down, but in getting everything down, I saw that there were so many learning lessons that I wish I had read at 25, or at 30 or at 40.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's still not anything out there, because everybody who writes books about their business journeys are like, so then I invented an algorithm and then I was a billionaire and this is me paying it back. And you're like, oh shit. Well, I'm not smart like that. I'm a grinder.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. There aren't a whole lot of books with a guy practically naked on the cover saying, here's how I failed. But what they don't realize is, climbing to this book, and what he's really talking about is, here's how I evolved.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key word here. There's some people that they go into a fetal position and they go, woe is me, and they never come back from it. That's right. Okay. That's just not you and me. Yep. And then there's others who, lick their wounds, and put one foot in front of the other, and most importantly, aren't a victim of what happened. You're many things, Greg, but you don't sound like a guy who's blaming everybody around you.
No.
Many people do. That is the move. And that's the sad move, because you can't evolve that way. No. You owned it, learned from it, and tried to improve from it. And that's what makes you successful.
Yep. For sure. You got to point the thumb before you point the finger.
Yeah.
And and you got to lead by example too. Yeah. Again, I'm a dad. And so if you're sitting there crying in the corner, blaming everybody else, guess what? That's what your kids are going to do. And if you want to talk about a failure, have 4 kids that are just whining and blaming everybody else and being quitters. Yeah. I mean, that is not good.
Yeah. Are you a boxing fan?
I do like it. Yes.
Go way back. I'm going to go back, but I tell you, one of the greatest quick interviews you ever will hear is the last fight that George Foreman fought. And he fought a guy named, I can't remember, Shannon, something Shannon. It doesn't matter. Point is, at that point, he was older. He was winning these fights, but losing on everybody's scorecard. Right. This was one of the, Shannon Briggs, by the way, this was one of the few where he actually was ahead on everybody's scorecard, and they gave it to the other guy. And when they interviewed him, and Larry Merchant set him up, and like, you got to be furious. I mean, you had this, we all got it. What do you think, George? And he said, first of all, I got my kids sitting in the front row. What's it going to look like for me to say, He said, you know what? I think the guy may have won the fight. He said, did you know, by the way, Larry, this man lost his mother 2 weeks ago. And Merchant was looked like white as it goes. No, he said, yeah, I think he won the fight. And he said, I want to tell you one other thing, Larry. He said, the George Foreman lean, mean barbecue grilling machine. It doesn't just make chops, it makes burgers too. We had never even heard of that word, by the way. Right. That business he sold for $135 million some years ago. 10 times more than he ever made as a boxer. A guy who evolved, a guy who's basically walking your path, all in that one fight. If you can find that on video, it'll be entertaining to you.
I'm going to watch it. I'm a big fan of him, and I had a George Foreman grill in college.
I saw the first time he mentioned it on the air, and he was like, what? And he's selling a grill? It was, a classic George Foreman interview, by the way. It's not going where you think it's going to go. All right, let's talk entrepreneur to entrepreneur. When did you first decide you were going to be an entrepreneur? We'll go back a little.
Well, I don't know if I ever thought I was going to be an entrepreneur, but
Yeah.
I knew I wanted to find success. I went to a college that was very wealthy and I was not. And so I started interviewing everybody's dad to figure out how did they make their money. And most of them weren't entrepreneurs. They were just very successful in New York and Connecticut for real estate and hedge funds and all that good jazz. So I'm like, okay, that's what I think I'm going to do. And so then I ended up getting in insurance, selling employee benefits to companies. And I, again, very scared I was going to be a total failure. So I fully committed. I was cold calling from 6 a.m. till 5 in the evening, like a crackhead. And I brought in 3 of the top 5 clients that they had at a very young age. And I go, I should be a partner in this thing. I mean, I've only been doing it a couple of years, but I'm obviously smashing it. And so I sat down with the guy that owned it and I was like, hey, I brought in 3 of the top 5. I built out your sales team. I did this, I did that. I really think I should be before I could get the word partner out. He was like, no, you'll never be that. And I was like, really? Why? And he was like, I built this thing. You make enough money for 25. That's all you're going to get. And anything you continue to make will be yours, but you're not taking anything else. And so in that moment, I realized I had to be in control of my own destiny. And I didn't know what that was going to be, but I knew that I could do horrible jobs, cold calling all day long for insurance that I didn't care about. So if I could apply that to something more interesting that had unlimited upside, that was fun, that I could treat like a professional sports team and take pride in, I was convinced that I could turn it into something. And so in that moment, on a dilapidated picnic table outside of the Mexican cafe in Annapolis, Maryland, 3 moonshine margaritas deep, I made the decision that I was going to start something. What? I did not know. But then that's when I started just thinking about what was I going to do with the rest of my life.
That's amazing. By the way, another thing you and I share. Out of the University of Maryland, within 2 weeks, I was working for the New York Life Insurance Company.
There you
I was
go.
a life, health, and disability man.
Right.
And 2 a week, 10 a month. And don't let us catch you in the bullpen. I lasted 2 years, 3 days, an hour and a half. I had very strong numbers like you. As a matter of fact, my first year, I'm very high up on the rankings. I was number 11 out of 7,800 agents. Killing it. I never wanted to own the business, by the way, but it gave me some confidence of, not sure I was put on this earth to do this, but I feel like I can do some things. So,
Yeah.
it's a proving ground. You get your head handed to you a lot there. And then you mentioned this earlier, get smacked a couple of times. It's scary getting smacked. Third time you get smacked, it doesn't hurt quite as much. It's sort of, you get a little numb to it. I've already tasted my blood. It's okay.
Yeah, it's like anything else, man. You get used to it. And my buddy, who's our creative director, his dad always used to say, just something else we got to get used to. No big deal.
Right. That much closer to the selling the next one.
That's right.
You mentioned success. What's your definition of success?
Well, now it's the 4 things money can't buy. So basically being in control of your time, your soul, your health, and your children's love. So if you have those 4, then you're smashing life. I got a lot of friends that, have I made money? Yes, I have. Do I need to pay my kids, club sports and our mortgage and all that? Yes. Do I enjoy having money? 100%. But if you sacrifice those other 4, then it's nothing. And I got friends that, don't have great health, or their kids don't love them, or they're dealing with this, or they're dealing with that, and that you don't get to enjoy the fruits of your labor. I mean, we're out here grinding hours every day for something, and you're doing it for kind of, if you think about it, those 4 pillars to be completely full. And so if they're not full or they're not standing upright, what are you doing it for?
Yeah. And Greg, we come back to the beginning. Once again, you're describing something that's completely logical. It's just not instinctive.
Right.
Instinctive is, I don't know about you, but my career was taken off.
Yeah.
And every time I put a hand up on the ladder, I went up and I
Yeah.
kept going up. Now I didn't see my kids. I didn't
Right.
make a whole lot of soccer games. I missed some birthday parties, but I was a great provider. And
Yeah.
I had a wonderful wife who sat me down and said, "We're out of balance."
Yeah.
And life is about balance, meaning, I'm just using the salad dressing as a metaphor, but you may not have the biggest salad dressing out there, but
Right.
you got a dressing that works and a family that loves you, and your
Yeah.
health is good because your mind's right
Hmm.
also. And that's something that is, which class did you learn that one in? That's, you don't learn, nobody's teaching that one, but it's about balance. And I think that's another positive that perhaps came out of that first experience for you of just what balance really looks like.
Well, you don't realize the significance of those four pillars until all of the other nonsense is gone.
Yeah.
It's almost Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Like when you don't have money, that's all you can think about. And so, right out of college, for the most part, I had nothing. And so I'm like, oh, I got to make money so that I can start a family so I can take care of my kids. And then you get into this habit of, well, this is the only thing this is my job. This is what I'm here for. And you keep kind of doubling down on that until you have a sit down with your
Right.
wife. Or in my case, this giant thing starts imploding. And then it's your job to keep it from imploding, but also survive, but also be a good father and also lead by example. And so you start focusing on what can I control? What will have the greatest impact for my long-term viability as a human? And so you're like, okay, well, I have to be healthy or I'm not going to be able to do any of this. Got to take care of my kids, got to take care of my soul. That kind of came, I think that was probably last for me uh, because I had someone very close to me die. And I don't think I personally understood the significance of having that fully in check. But kids love, I mean, the almost comedic skit of the super wealthy guy with kids who hate him. I mean, it's in every movie there is.
Right. Right.
And so your kids don't love you. I mean, what are we even doing?
Yeah. 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 It's about balance. I don't talk about my books, so I'm not even going to give you the title of this one, but there's one book that every time I sign it, I put your name in there. I put keep it all in balance and put
Yep.
my name in there.
Yep.
But it's tough. And like I said, it's one of those things that's just not taught. And unfortunately, we, as sales guys, we know that people don't typically instinctively fix small problems. They fix big ones.
Mm-hmm.
So we either have a wife or somebody that loves us to sit us down, or we wait for the big one. And that's one of the reasons why I think we so badly need people that know how to sell. And I don't mean you have to be carrying a bag like you and I did. I mean, be able to create some trust and create some urgency and ask the tougher questions to save people from themselves in a sense.
100%.
Yeah. This commercial brought to you by Rob Jolls. But truly, I mean, that's where it's at. And so that's why books like yours are important, because that could actually save somebody from the inevitable. Because believe me, it'll happen, and then we all find religion, we wake up.
Yep.
But the cost can be, I know as a professional speaker, tons of speakers I know with broken blood vessels on their noses, living in townhouses, going through their divorces.
Mm-hmm.
Great. They sure made a lot of money,
Yep.
but they lost everything. So on that happy note, let's bring ourselves in for a landing. Let's see. Do I have anything else I want to ask you? How about a mentor or two? And I promise I'll let you go, but you seem like a guy who may have one or two that deserves to be mentioned.
Yeah. I unfortunately never really found a good mentor to help guide me. So I really read a lot of books And I tried to digest the learning lessons from those books of biographies of great people throughout history, or just, you know, The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, or, Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, or, The Rise of Teddy Roosevelt, and just all of these different types of books that could give me little learning lessons and quick quips to lead by. And then the rest was just done through trial and error and baptism by fire. So that is those were my momentary mentors, if you will.
Good. No, that works. That works. It's usually somebody, be it a book, a tape, somebody barking in our ear, giving us some pointers. The book is called Undressed, The Unfiltered Story of My Failed American Dream and How It Led to Success. And if this conversation doesn't lead you to Amazon to go get this book, you got to get your head examined. I actually have a copy of the book in front of me, and unbeknownst to Greg, I will be buying a copy because this one's going to go to a friend so that I can not only read his book, but give him a verified review.
Thank you.
That's 1 out of 20 podcasts for me. The others I go, very interesting. I'll consider this one. This is too good for me not to read. I'm really looking forward to it. We're coming up on the holidays. It's a real good time for book sales. So get one, put it in your stocking stuffer, and read it and put a comment on there. Listen, how do people get a hold of you, Greg?
GregoryVetter.com, LinkedIn, Instagram, GL Vetter. I'm back on social media after 7 years off of it. You got to hustle the books now. So I'm back in the scene.
Welcome home.
Yeah.
We missed you.
Yeah.
All right. By the way, that's Vetter with 2 T's. So look him up. Go get that book. And Greg, I got to tell you, I enjoy Money My podcast, but some of them like this are really meaningful to me because I've been in your shoes. I didn't learn all the lessons you learned, but I was taking some notes on this side and just thoroughly enjoyed the interview. I'm grateful to have had you in here. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, folks. Well, we'll do it again as well as we can next time. Until then, stay safe.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, please rate and recommend it on iTunes, Outcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also get more information on this show and Rob at jollis.com.